So far, when we're talking about these frames, we've been talking about acceptance frames. Epic, comedy, tragedy, or comic, I guess. So now we're going to talk about the rejection frames, which is about rejecting the status quo. When we're looking at the rejection frames, just as with acceptance, there are really three frames. There are the burlesque, the satire, and the elegy. And we're going to focus on the two frames that have received the most attention, and really for good reason. And that's the burlesque and the satire. So I'll be focusing on those two. I'm going to tell you right now, burlesque is not nearly as saucy as the name might imply. And if we think back to that redemptive cycle, right, in which there was order, pollution, purification, redemption, and then you move back up to order, rejection frames are a little bit of a twist on that, because when they return to order, they're returning to some sort of new order. Because rejection frames, what they're ultimately rejecting is the current order. Acceptance frames were about accepting and embracing, and you might even say protecting the current order. Rejection frames are about rejecting it, getting rid of the current order. So in acceptance, the order works, but the problem is that somebody has done something wrong that has sort of fouled up the system. And if we'll just get rid of them or punish them and they'll redeem themselves, then the system works again. And the rejection frames, you're saying, yeah, the system's sort of broken. We really can't go back to it. Right, so that's why I added the word new, right? So there's order, pollution, purification, redemption, and then a new order, new and improved. So let's look at what I'm talking about. So the rejection frames, like I said, the first is the burlesque. And the burlesque, again, begins with order, there's pollution, sin, and then we get transcendence, and then that movement to a new order, right? So order, pollution, sin, this seems very familiar. And that transcendence is the moment when we realize we have to dump the whole system. Transcendence is deciding that as opposed to redeeming ourselves, purifying ourselves of guilt to make the system work, that really we need to transcend. Fly up and away from this dumpster fire into a new one. Right? Well, not a new dumpster fire, hopefully. To the new world, one that's not a dumpster fire, right? So that's what you're doing. You're leaving that old order behind because there's just so much sin and pollution. It's so corrupted. It's so corrupted we can't do anything with it. So we're talking about the burlesque frame, where in the comic frame, and there's a reason why I start the comic frame. In the comic frame, we have a clown, and it's someone we laugh at until they sort of laugh with us and see the error of their ways, and then we can let them back in, right? And now the whole order, and the system has been restored. In the burlesque, rather than a clown, we say they are a buffoon. And the buffoon is not someone who's just silly or foolish. It can be corrected. They are hopelessly lost, right? In the burlesque, someone is just hopelessly ridiculous. By the way, there is a fallacy of reasoning called reductio ad absurdum, which is reducing something to the absurd. You're not taking it seriously anymore. If you're familiar with that, fantastic. If not, don't worry about it. Yeah, but the burlesque buffoon is somebody who is just so silly. Not even silly. They're just dumb. They're just so stupid. We can't do anything with them, and we just have to walk away. We can't get them to see, like, do you see how you're wrong? And they laugh. We laugh at them, they laugh at themselves, and we all get back together again, which is why Burlesque comedy, right? We're all back together. This is saying, oh my gosh, you're too dumb for words, and walking away from the whole thing. So we're going to look at an example from The Daily Show from a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to see the way that The Daily Show sees conservatives through a burlesque frame.
On the day Donald Trump most likely contracted COVID at an event in the Rose Garden, he hosted another slightly different kind of super spreader event, a campaign rally. These rallies are a known vector for spreading many of Trump's favorite lies. So I traveled to the battleground state of Pennsylvania to see just how many people had caught Trump's version of reality. I'm here at a Trump rally in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We are weeks away from the election, months away from finding out who wins, and probably about a year away from losing a loved one to the inevitable civil war. Let's do this.
Yes! Make America great again.
Woo!
Woo, woo!
Rainbow flag, classic. How's it going? Mind if I check out some of your stuff?
Yesterday we did $5,400 in sales.
What is selling now? Is there anything 200,000 deaths later that doesn't quite work as well?
Not with the Trump stuff.
It's almost as if the Trump stuff isn't affected by that at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, Tell me about these shorts.
Well, we got the Donald Trump shorts. You know, we got to rep president today.
You gotta be careful. Donald Trump that close to your genitals, in a decade he's gonna deny he was ever there and countersue.
Pretty funny.
When did you get out here to see Donald Trump?
About 26 hours ago, 10 o'clock yesterday morning.
So you're gonna wait 2 days to see the president?
First of all, come on. Donald Trump is our first rock star superhero president. He's the real life Tony Stark. They should call him President Iron Man.
Well, Tony Stark gave a shit about science. So much excitement in the air. So many droplets. You feel like people are gonna feel this effect for weeks to come. Why no mask?
Frankly, I forgot it in my car. I forgot to grab it on the way out.
Honestly, it's not even for COVID. I just think all of the Sharpie fumes are not super healthy for you.
Probably not. When it was still wet.
What do you think about the whole mask situation right now? Are you worried about COVID?
For me, like me personally, I'm not worried, but my dad has like underlying health conditions.
Okay.
So if he gets it, he's gonna be in trouble.
Why come here and take that risk if your dad has health issues?
Just to see Trump.
So it's worth a little bit of risk.
Yeah.
Nice flags, man.
I love them.
Wear a mask. Back at it.
I don't live under dictators like you, douchebag.
The efficacy of Trump's herd mentality theory was on full display.
That's America right there. That's freedom.
That's freedom?
That's freedom.
Are you excited about the SCOTUS?
Of course I am.
What are you excited about?
It's going to fill the court with constitutional loving Americans again. That court has been too liberal for too long.
Really?
Of course it has.
You're pro-life.
Of course.
It's important for Americans to do whatever they can to protect a human life.
Yes.
Why aren't you wearing a mask?
I mean, again, it's a personal choice, I think. If everybody was wearing them and everybody said put a mask on, I would respect everybody's wishes and put it on. We're not sheep. We're lions.
Not sheep. You're not sheep. But if everybody here was wearing masks.
If everybody was wearing, but again, we're not sheeple.
You're not sheeple.
We're not.
So you're going to look at what everybody's doing and you're going to follow
That's
along.
it.
Yeah. But not sheeple.
Not sheeple.
As the not sheep were bravely running into a tightly packed airplane hangar to see Patient Zero, I couldn't help but think of D-Day and the beaches of Normandy. Well, I don't know which side they're on. As I traced the spread of bullshit, I was fearful for those most vulnerable, whose defenses were already compromised.
About 2 months before COVID started, somebody put me on to QAnon.
Great.
And I believe some of it, and I don't believe some of it, but I believe only so much can be a conspiracy. I think a lot of it's true.
You know about QAnon. Is there anything you can tell us that I don't know?
JFK Jr. is still alive.
What?
This guy is always behind Trump at the rallies.
So you're saying JFK Jr. is still alive and spending his time in the background at Trump rally?
From QAnon, yes.
Do you think racism exists in America?
I do not believe that people hate each other as much as...
You don't think racism is a problem in America?
I do not think it's a problem now.
There's a potential that JFK Jr. is alive and here at a Trump rally.
Maybe.
Hilarious. But with just over a month until the voters go to the polls, had the president somehow already contaminated Election Day? If Biden is elected, you trust the results?
No.
They're cheaters.
No.
But if Trump wins, do you trust the results?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think mail-in ballots is not going to be fair because it leads to fraud and stuff.
You don't trust mail-in ballots?
Not at all.
The president uses mail-in ballots.
Yeah, they're going to use mail-in ballots for this upcoming election, right?
Right, but the president himself uses mail-in ballots.
Oh, he does? Where?
That's how he votes. He mails it in.
That's different.
How's it different?
I don't know. I honestly didn't know that. I don't even know what you're talking about.
But you do know it's different. After hours in the heavily contaminated parking lot, I wanted to self-quarantine and chill, but I still had one burning question. Are you in a better place than you were 4 years ago?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is America a better place than they were 4 years
I
ago?
believe absolutely.
We have higher unemployment. We have 200,000 people dead due to COVID, and we have riots in the streets.
Yes, let me just tell you this much. Yes, I'm doing much better. I'm literally making 4 times as much as I was making when Obama was president.
What do you do?
I work for a debt relief company.
Yeah. So now, as a debt relief employee, you make more money under Donald Trump.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. It's good to be a white debt relief collector.
So now you've seen that, right? So, and what you see there is the idea that these, to the Daily Show, these people at these rally, they're not people that you can even work with. And it's been some of it. I mean, these people did say these things. Also, a little bit of editing, I'm sure, in there helps. I'm not going to deny that, right? And so then it suggests that the whole order, right, that all these people, they're just a loss. We got to walk away from all of them. And the suggestion is not just them individually, but the larger system of which they're a part. I mean, this is sort of about a denouncing of Trump and Republicans. Is sort of what the Daily Show is doing here. And the Daily Show has always been pretty open about the liberal politics, right? So the order is that support for Trump, right? And what they do in the show, right, Jordan Klepper is doing, is talking about all the, what he sees as the hypocrisy and ignorance of the people, right? He shows all of that and then suggests that they are, just so lost. I mean, can't do anything about it, can't do anything with them. And so really what he wants is this world without hypocrisy and ignorance. That's sort of vague. And what we're getting at really is a new order, and it's probably one without, I don't know if it's even without conservatives, or at least this brand of conservatism, this brand of thought. I mean, where people aren't sure about whether or not they should trust QAnon or not. I mean, that's, I admit, I cannot even. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so that new order is something specific in the idea of, they're not saying, I imagine a world where, but we get the very strong sense that they want to walk away from and get rid of and disempower and silence, right, the people who are, who they think just being hypocrites and ignorant. And really, it's pretty strongly suggested that they're hoping that it is to end the Trump administration. Right, and that will bring about perhaps a new order, I guess. Right, and by the way, one of the things that Burke says about rejection is that it's so focused on tearing something down. The new order is never very well defined.